Hi and welcome to another 10x leadership video. Thank you very much for joining us. This week, another short video. I just thought I'd try a few sort of shorter form videos, see if that gets anyone interested. This one is based on, well, I suppose, a few conversations I've had with a friend and colleague who I suppose helped me understand how to deal with disappointment. So that's what I'm going to talk you through in this week's video. So as I say, this week it's about how to deal with disappointment, and we've all had disappointments at various points in our careers. But I say this is a technique I was taught by a friend and colleague. So imagine that you're like Kyle here in the corner, and as you can see, Kyle looks a little bit disappointed about something. Is it because he didn't get the recognition he was expecting? Is it because they were overlooked for a key role or activity? Is it because the project they were working on has just hit a major problem? And of course there's hundreds if not thousands of other options here, but it's stuff that is disappointing as opposed to devastating, I suppose. So things that perhaps you'd built your hopes up about, and then all of a sudden that's disappeared, and you're left feeling like Kyle there, deflated, demotivated, worried perhaps. And if you're anything like me, what you do then is it takes a long time to process that. I say a long time, it just is in your head, certainly in my head a lot, and I need to process it. I keep going through it. I think about other options and outcomes and what could I have done differently, and before you know it, it's having a negative impact, including it might have a negative impact on your sleep. It might be stopping you concentrating on things. Depends on the level of disappointment, doesn't it? That middle one there, overlooked for a key role or activity. If you thought you were going to get a promotion and somebody else, funny old thing, the boss's mate has got it, and you'd worked really hard to get yourself in a place to get that promotion, that is really disappointing. So what we know is that we're still paid to work, aren't we? So there are a few options we can take. We could go off and look for another job. We could just throw in the towel and say, well, we're not bothered about this work anymore. But those things aren't really going to get you anywhere. If you need to sort of refocus and just get on with things again, and I suppose reset your brain, the technique I'm going to show you is a really useful one. So the trick is really to imagine that there's a ginormous folder just floating above at the side of your head there, and in the on the folder is the words written in bold: disappointment. And I know what you're thinking. What's going on? He's gone mad. But I've tried this a few times and it really does. Well, it certainly works for me. So I thought I'd share it with you. So, imagine that you've got on one side of your head, you've got all your disappointments or whatever your problem is that you're trying to solve. And then on the other side, you've got this folder with disappointment written on it. And I suppose it's like lots of things. The more you can sort of visualize that, the better. So you might just want to stop and think for 30 seconds. What does that look like? Can you see it? Can you smell it? Can you see the texture of it? The more that it's real, the better. And the trick is simply that with that folder floating there, whatever it is that's disappointed you, you sort of pick it up from the active bit of your brain and you stick it into your folder of disappointment. And again, I know it sounds, I don't know, faintly ridiculous that that's going to make any difference. But certainly what it's done for me, and it's done for others, and I think they use it in counselling as well, is that it takes the thing that was troubling you and worrying you and taking up a lot of your brain power that you should be using for other things, including getting yourself back on your feet and, you know, tackling whatever it is you've got to tackle. It takes that away and it parks it in your folder of disappointment. And you've taken an action. It's not like you're just ignoring it, because again, that will gnaw away at you. What you've done is you've taken a positive step. And I think it's a bit like one of the previous videos I talked about. It was the 5 regrets of the dying. Great video, by the way, if you haven't watched it already. In that video, one of the regrets was about living a happier life, and people realising too late that happiness is a choice. It's the same sort of process with this. We have a choice about how we deal with that disappointment. And in this case, you know, and when I've done it, I've chosen to acknowledge the disappointment, park it in my folder of disappointment, and that, for me, it certainly stopped me thinking about it. What it did was it took it away and moved it out of what felt like the middle of my brain to the edge of the brain. And, you know, did it stop me thinking about it? No, occasionally I did think about it, but I didn't process it. I didn't have to analyse it. I didn't have to work through it in the same way that, you know, I have done with things that I haven't used the folder of disappointment for. But, you know, I think you think about it less, and also not only do you think about it less on a sort of daily basis, but you very quickly stop thinking about it at all. And before you know it, you've stopped thinking about your folder of disappointment, because you've just moved on. And there are lots and lots of other things you can focus on. You know, you can't do anything about the past. You can only change your future. So, you know, for me, it's a really, really useful technique, and, you know, one that I use whenever I have a disappointment. And, you know, that doesn't mean that everything's perfect. I mean, a bit like that picture. It's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Let's be honest. You know, it's not quite, there's something not quite right about it. A picture of himself in front of himself. It's almost like almost like an out-of-body experience. But the point is, you don't feel normal, but then why would you? Because you've gone through a big disappointment. But what you're not doing is you're not letting it hold you back anymore. You're just taking action, you're parking it, you're moving on, and you're actually taking some positive action to do something different. That's it. Short and sweet. Again, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like, please subscribe, please comment. Please share this with your friends, your colleagues, anyone that you think needs to know about this. And, you know, not for my benefit, but for their benefit. So yeah, thank you very much. Great to have you here with us, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.